Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, a show celebrating and questioning one of the most beloved entertainment companies in the world through honest, passionate, and clear-eyed Disney discussions. I'm Jeff DePauli, your entertainment-obsessed host with rose-colored glasses removed. Today on the show, we have the House of Mouse headlines brought to you by LaughingPlace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. This episode is being released on April 6th, 2022, but was recorded a bit earlier than normal on April 2nd as both Kyle and I are on vacation. But here's what's been going on in the world of Disney recently. The Hoop-de-Doo musical review is returning to Walt Disney World, a Jim Henson documentary coming from Ron Howard, Moon Knight arriving at Avengers Campus, and more.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
For the first time since March of 2020, all of the Walt Disney World Resort hotels are now open. The milestone was reached with the reopening of Disney's All-Star Sports on March 31st. Despite the extended closure, it doesn't seem as though the rooms have undergone any refurbishment. So, if you're seeking the classic Walt Disney World Value Resort experience, then the newly reopened All-Star Sports is the place for you. After previously confirming that H2O Glow Nights would be returning to Typhoon Lagoon this summer, Walt Disney World has now announced more details and dates. First, these events are getting a slightly different name and will now be known as H2O Glow After Hours, keeping in line with the hard ticket event names at various Walt Disney World theme parks. On that note, guests attending these evening events will enjoy complimentary ice cream treats, popcorn, and soda. H2O Glow After Hours will begin on May 28th and run every Saturday through August 27th. Gates will open at 6 p.m. and the event will run from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. If you're interested in attending, tickets are on sale now. Despite continued rumors of their demise, it looks as though Walt Disney World's minivan service is also plotting a comeback. Taking to social media, the resort confirmed that the transportation offering will be back starting this summer. Furthermore, when they do hit the road, the minivans will once again be powered by Lyft. With no firm return to service date set as of recording, we'll need to keep an ear out for any developments. With the Epcot International Flower and Garden Festival still going strong, the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival is now just around the corner. In fact, Walt Disney World has announced that this year's event will begin on July 14th and run through November 19th. For those unfamiliar, the annual Food and Wine Festival features more than 25 global marketplaces located throughout Epcot and finds Disney teeming with chefs, mixologists, and sommeliers. Also, returning to the festival is the Eat to the Beat concert series, Remy's Ratatouille Hide and Squeak scavenger hunt, and more. So be sure to stay tuned for more scrumptious news on this popular event. To celebrate the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World, the resort and Coca-Cola have collaborated on a set of 5 unique co-branded collectible bottles. These specialty bottles feature each of the 4 park icons with their own unique iridescent color on the labels, plus a 5th bottle with a special gold label. Additionally, the bottles are shaped like the ones that could be purchased back in 1971 when the resort opened. These specialty 50th anniversary Coke bottles are now being sold at locations throughout each of the Walt Disney World theme parks. With Marvel's Moon Knight beginning its run on Disney+, the character has now made his debut at Disney California Adventure. As of Wednesday, March 31st, Moon Knight was spotted atop Avengers Campus after dark, complete with his glowing eyes as seen on the show. If you don't spot him right away, the fog that rolls in around the same time might also serve as a tip-off. Of course, with more looks for Moon Knight being teased for the series, perhaps we'll see some other editions of the hero coming to Avengers Campus in the weeks ahead. For those who have been waiting for the arrival of ObiWan Kenobi on Disney+, there's some good news and bad news. Starting with the latter, the show's debut has been pushed back 2 days and is now set to launch on May 27th. However, on the upside, that day will now see the release of 2 episodes. Interestingly, this move means that the show will now be premiering on a Friday, which was once Disney Plus's main drop day before moving to Wednesdays with the arrival of Loki. Eventually, Disney might realize that there are 5 other days of the week, but for now, you can catch Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus starting May 27th. Elsewhere in the Star Wars universe, Star Wars Celebration is gearing up for its return to the Anaheim Convention Center next month. As the event draws near, the first celebrity guests who will appear this year have been announced. That list currently includes Anthony Daniels, Ian McDermott, Ashley Eckstein, Giancarlo Esposito, Junius Suotamo, and many more. Plus, there's of course much more yet to be revealed. The 2022 edition of Star Wars Celebration will take place May 26th through the 29th, and tickets are on sale now. A new show starring two of the Jonas Brothers is heading to the Alphabet Network, but it's probably not the two you're thinking of. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Kevin and Frankie Jonas will be hosting the newly greenlit Claim to Fame, a competition show in which 12 people related to celebrities step outside their famous family member's shadow and live together under one roof, concealing their identity and lineage in the quest for their own fame and fortune. No release date for the show has been set just yet, but this could be one to watch when it arrives on ABC. And now it's time to bring in Kyle Burbank from laughingplace.com. How's it going, Kyle? Welcome back to the galaxy.
Thank you. Yeah, I was out of town and off planet for a bit there, but now I'm back. I'm at Walt Disney World, so it's good to be back.
So life is good, huh?
Pretty much. Except for, it being Florida.
Fair enough. But let's jump into the news. Let's start on the other coast, in fact, because Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure, is now utilizing the single rider queue. Now, you still have not ridden this, right?
I still have not, no.
You've gone to a galaxy far, far away, but you have not visited Spider-Man. Alrighty. Well, let me just say, this is a good option, single rider, because this attraction, I'm sure you've heard, I have nothing against this attraction, but it is not an e-ticket attraction. It is not worth the very long waits that there sometimes is for this. So I'm very happy to see single rider, and a little surprised because of Lightning Lane, but happy to see single rider is now part of Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure.
Well, what's funny is that it's been on the sign all this time, and something I didn't realize until I was actually writing about this is that Disney just openly suggests that you divide your party and do single rider, which I know people have done, and sometimes cast members will tell you to do that, but I didn't realize that was actually on their website and that it wasn't just for people who are by themselves.
Interesting. I didn't realize that either, but they actually have that verbiage on the website?
Yeah, I forget exactly what it says, but it basically said, it's a great option if you're willing to split up your party and get on with possibly shorter wait times.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Now, I was surprised because, obviously Disney has had a lot of attractions with single rider lines through the years, but I thought that they were dissuading this to boost Lightning Lane sales. And I know that that's been a whole thing in the news lately as well. Lightning Lane has become too popular, I guess, and therefore the line is often longer than the standby, which is insane. But
I don't know if it was necessarily because of that. I figured it was first a COVID thing, and then just operationally, there's a lot of challenges to single rider. It seems like a good idea, but then it's hard to communicate wait times and stuff about it. And the other thing that stuck out to me is, remember Toy Story Midway Mania at California Adventure used to have single rider, and that to me feels like a very similar experience. I don't know how the seating arrangements are, but that's why I was kind of a little surprised that they were activating this, because that started and then went away.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. And you're right, it is a very similar sort of ride system. Instead of 2 people on each side of the ride vehicle, it's 4, so it doubles what Midway Mania has, but the loading system is similar. The only thing I can think is maybe the queue setup. They've had that single rider line ever since the beginning for Web Slingers, so maybe they just kind of thought of that in advance and therefore had a better setup for the queue. I don't know, but that's a really interesting point. Speaking of the Lightning Lane, though, I just want to touch on something, because have you been hearing about exaggerated standby wait times?
Yeah, Mike C. had talked a little bit about one of his experiences recently where he had some big ones, but I think it has more to do with them tuning it properly than it does trying to be nefarious.
Oh, all right. You're nicer than me. I gotta say, I was Rise of the Resistance one day said 60-minute wait, and I waited 30 minutes in standby, and it happened a couple times, and I was like, hey, this is not a good look if this is what's happening. But, single rider kind of negates that, right? The fact that they're still having single rider, which I honestly thought they were trying to get rid of. So In any case, it's here for web slingers, at least on certain days, so keep your eye out for it. Highly suggest using it if you can. Don't spend a good chunk of your day waiting in that line. Of course, if you haven't done it, everybody wants to do it. But splitting up your party for this one, I think you'll be okay with it once you experience it. And by the way, I know you haven't done it yet, but it's a legit workout. It is exhausting. Like, your arms, I mean, perhaps I'm just really out of shape, but I feel like I've heard a lot of people say it, like, it's a workout.
I believe that. We went on the Millennium Falcon ride a couple days ago, and that was my third time on it, but my first time as a gunner. And even like hitting that button over and over, my arm was a little sore by the end.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Anywho, let's move on to some more news. We got Hyperspace Mountain returning to Disneyland for a limited time starting April 29th. Of course, this is in time for Star Wars Day on May the 4th be with you. And Space Mountain will be closed on April 28th to prepare for it. It opens the next day as the Hyperspace Mountain. And this will be part of some of the Star Wars night events that are happening in May at Disneyland. I gotta say, I was a little surprised. Did you see like the split reactions from people on this?
No, I don't spend much time on Twitter.
I've always loved Hyperspace Mountain. I think it's my favorite Space Mountain. Ghost Galaxy I love as well, but like, I really like Hyperspace Mountain, but there were quite a few people who were not happy about this return. And I was like, I didn't realize that there were so many people that didn't like it, and the last time it was there was like 2019, so it's not like, yeah, it's probably there less than the Main Street Electrical Parade. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I like the Disneyland version. I think they did it well, and I do like how it is fairly limited. Like, it was there for a long time at one point, and then ever since then it's been, the short little returns, kind of like Soarin' over California. Whereas at Disneyland Paris, it's been the hyperspace for a long time now, and people really want the original back. So I could see some of that getting muddled together. But yeah, of course they're going to bring it back for May the 4th. Like, it just kind of makes sense. I think people should probably just get used to this being a seasonal thing, just like Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Yeah, as long as like Star Tours is still around, it makes sense to me. If they were going to do like the legitimate, what they should do, everything Star Wars is in Galaxy's Edge sort of thing, then I would probably have issue with it. But since they don't do that, I'm like, yeah, no, plus I love it. It's so good. Have you done it?
Yeah, I have done it.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So I also want to mention that Imagineer Kevin Lively worked on that overlay, and he was recently on episode 905 of Disney Coast to Coast. So if you haven't listened, I highly suggest it. It's a fun episode. But regardless, it's coming back. So whether or not you like it, hey, Hyperspace Mountain here to stay for a limited time with no end date announced. So that's happening. Another thing returning that I gotta tell you, I know it's nerdy, but I'm really happy it's coming back, is the Eggstravaganza returning to Disneyland Resort and Epcot. Have you ever done this?
We have done it at Epcot. I think I've done it at Disneyland back when it was just at Disneyland, or maybe DCA, I forget which. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this. If I was entering the parks this weekend, I would go and do this. It's silly, it's easy, but I find it fun.
Why don't you describe it just in case people don't even know what it is?
Yeah, so basically you go and buy a map of the park, and it's got the different locations and different character stickers, and then you walk around and you spot these different eggs. Some of them are a little bit more challenging than others. Some of them are clear. I saw one today when we were doing our 10K in Epcot. And then at the end, you get a prize. And, it's great for kids, I imagine. It's fun for adults. It gives you a chance to walk around World Showcase at Epcot, or now there's 3 at Disneyland. There's Disneyland California Adventure, or even Downtown Disney, where you can do this egg hunt. And, the only downside is that they have I think the first year was like $5, and now it's up to $10. But The prizes have also improved from what I've seen. So I'll give them that. I think the prizes have gotten better. I couldn't tell you what they are this year, but I know in years past, I've been happier with with what they've given us.
Well, it's always the same prize, isn't it? It's a character Easter egg. So what are you saying? Like, the quality of the product has gotten better?
Oh, well, here they've had different ones, unless I'm thinking of one of the other scavenger hunts, like cups and things like that.
I'm pretty sure for Easter it's always been a character egg.
Okay, then I could be completely wrong. Maybe it got bigger because it was really small at the beginning.
Maybe, I'm not sure about that, but like as you said, at Disneyland Resort, there's 3 different locations. It's the 2 parks and downtown Disney. So if you don't want to buy entrance into a theme park and you want to do this, you can do it at downtown Disney, and obviously you got to pay for downtown Disney parking. But it is a lot of fun. It takes several hours, as you said. They're not all simple. Like you would think, oh, this kitty little Easter egg hunt with oversized Easter eggs in the parks, simple little fun thing. No, it'll take you a couple hours. Like. It's crazy. Now, you say you get a prize at the end. I don't know if they do this at Walt Disney World, but at Disneyland, a lot of times they'll just give you the prize when you buy the map, because even if you don't finish, like, you're essentially paying for the prize.
Yeah, I've had them give me the option before, and I'm like, I'll come back for it.
Now, this runs from March 31st through April 17th, which is Easter, at Disneyland Resort. Opens March 31st at Epcot, but it didn't say anything about an end date. So I don't know if that goes into more of the Flower and Garden Festival or how that works. But it might be a little beyond Easter there. But the one thing I will say, and this is the one thing I've hated about it, and maybe they've fixed this. I kind of hope that they did if they didn't. But, you know, there are years where I would go to Disneyland for Easter, and I'd always say, hey, I'm going to do the extravaganza as part of this day. And you'd get there, and like before the park even opened, they're like, oh, we sold out of that like days ago. And I was like, wait a second, like this is clearly an Easter thing, and you don't have any for Easter. So what they were doing was they basically had a limited amount, and they'd sell out they'd sell as many as they could as soon as they could. Whereas I always felt like, oh, they should hold on to a certain amount for each day. And when they sell out for the day, they sell out for the day. That makes sense. So just be warned. If you want to do this, like, they could sell out. And they have, I believe, every year in the past. So maybe if you really, really, really want to do it on Easter, get the map and stickers early and hold on to it till then. I don't know. But hopefully they've, like, fixed that system, because I always found it to be a really horrible system in that way.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I feel like that's more of a problem at Disneyland than Walt Disney World. But again, things could have changed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple fix. Like we said, like you're going to sell out regardless. So have a minimal amount for each day and then just sell them out for the day. But at least on Easter.
Given the shipping challenges Disney's had, I'm a little surprised they arrived on time at all.
Yeah, so you're there, you just said for a 10K, right? Is that the race that everybody was talking about where like the medals might not have arrived?
So they didn't actually specify which races. They just said the medals in general, but they have arrived. Like my wife said that the ones that she did for the 5K, it's actually a compass and it was packaged. And I'm not sure if it was packaged because it could like swing open or because they just got off the truck and they're just like, about.
That's funny. But yeah, I'm glad they came, because that is, obviously I'm not running the races, but that would be a major disappointment. I know that's a thing. I've been in the parks on race days and like seeing everybody run around or walk around afterward with their, not only the medals around their neck, but those like bandages on their legs. What are those sticker-like things that people put on their legs?
I think they help with cramps or something. I've never used it, but maybe I should, because man, my calves burned for the first 2 miles.
Oh man, it all went well though. How'd you do overall?
Oh, it was fine. I don't really care about time. My wife she's doing the challenge this time, so she's got another race tomorrow, and that's a 10-miler. So
10 miles. Oh gosh, can't.
Hey, that's 3 miles less than the half marathon, so a little easier for her.
I still can't believe people pay to do this. This sounds like a punishment to me, but to each their own, right? Now for some good news that people have been waiting for a very long time. Up close character greetings are returning to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, and Aulani. They're saying as early as April 18th, so it probably means that it's being rolled out over time, right?
I suppose so, and I think it'll also be different considerations depending on whether it's a face character or a masked character.
Yeah, this is a little bit controversial as far as cast members are concerned. People are saying, they're doing this and they're not requiring vaccination proof or anything to get into the park. I mean, perhaps I'm being naive, but I do personally feel like we need to get on with life at this point. I know numbers are kind of blowing up overseas a bit, but I don't know. Here in the U.S., it seems to be okay right now. Knock on wood. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is hard with the cast members. I think they should be. I mean, that could also be the challenge. Like maybe there's cast members who don't want to return to the normal one just yet. So maybe there are cast members who are willing to volunteer for those roles and other ones that want to hold off. I don't know. I hope that is the case. Like, I would hope that cast members be able to opt out currently if they wanted to.
I'm sure they can opt out, but I'm sure they're losing hours and money if they do. So,
Yeah,
it is definitely a difficult decision if you're in that position. The character costumes, though, I never really understood why that was such a big deal. I mean, if a performer has a mask on under a giant mascot head, I don't understand why this took so long, personally.
I mean, I think a lot of it is it's weird. It's weird not it's weird to touch people. It was very weird being on the Star Cruiser and being surrounded by people. In fact, I ended up because it fit my costume too. I was like, I'm just gonna wear a mask inside. Like it was definitely a different experience of having face characters and everyone's closely interacting. And after 2 years, it feels strange. So I can understand that even if looking at the science, that the likelihood of transmission during those interactions, if someone's wearing a mask and a character helmet, is small, people just aren't used to it.
Totally. I totally get that. It's bizarre, and it's something that's going to take getting used to. I guess the thing I would encourage people, and who am I? Don't listen to me, right? But I would just encourage people to try and get back to normal as soon as you feel comfortable, because for me personally, I would just be very sad to see if this was like a normal forever for anyone. I definitely have friends who have been like legitimately traumatized by it.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad, right? So I would really like for nobody to feel traumatic about this eventually. So in any case, character meet and greets are coming back. That's great. The lines are going to be huge. That's all I got to say. Are they selling Lightning Lane for this? And I'm not being facetious.
Well, I think at Walt Disney World, they did add some meet and greets to Genie Plus.
Okay.
But like the indoor
Plus.
ones, like the princess ones.
The infamous Genie Plus now. Alrighty, so that's happening, and the one thing I'm curious to see is whether our little character moments will stick around. I kind of doubt that it will, simply because, you're paying people to be at work, right? And so they're not going to, at least forever, do meet and greets and little moments, I would assume. But I love the moments. It's one of the things from pandemic theme park experiences that I hope sticks around, but we'll see.
I'd love if they split the difference, because I don't really go to meet and greets. If I want a picture of a character, I take a picture off to the side in between when they're greeting people. So the character moments are perfect for me. So I hope that they have like atmospheric characters and then have like meet and greets and make those two separate things.
And that might be the thing, right? As far as the face characters are concerned, maybe they'll still do those like happenings or moments, whereas full-on mascot characters are a bit safer. So that'd be interesting. The other thing I want to see stick around is cavalcades. I want full-blown parades and cavalcades. I'm getting greedy, I get it. All of this costs money. You gotta pay people to perform in these things, but as long as it doesn't fully replace the full experience, I'm all for it living beside it. So that was cool. Another thing returning, lots of stuff returning. I'm ready for new news, but right now it's just lots of returning stuff. We have the Hoop-de-Doo musical review returning to Walt Disney World. Now, this first debuted in 1974. It's older than both of us, way older. And Hoop-de-Doo will once again offer guests a rousing Wild West performance, singing, zany vaudeville comedy with lots of laughs, and an unforgettable countrified feast full of fried chicken, smoked barbecue ribs, a variety of savory sides, and of course, strawberry shortcake. And this happens at Pioneer Hall at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground. Have you ever done this?
I haven't. It doesn't seem like it's for me, but I know people love it.
I only did it as a kid, and I have very fond memories because it was just, it was a fun time with the whole family sort of thing. And it is one of those things that I'm always like, I should go back and do that sometime, but I just can't. I don't know. I just never pull the trigger on it. And then on top of that, I'm always just surprised how popular it is, for not because it's not good, but because I feel like it's something that isn't tremendously marketed, and it's constant. Like, I don't know if it's 7 days a week, but I feel like it's 7 days a week, multiple times a night. If it's not that, it's quite a lot. So I'm always surprised that like it sells so well. I'm like, how are people hearing about this and doing this and like leaving the parks to get to it? I'm always shocked.
Well, especially because there's a lot of these style shows in Orlando, like all
Yeah.
sorts of dinner theater options for a lot less. And if you like to drink, a lot of drinking included in your ticket. So yeah, that's the other kind of surprising thing about it, I guess.
And there was a lot of rumors going around that this was not going to return. Of course, this closed because of pandemic, and it is returning with a few updates to its script and scenery while staying true to the treasured experience the whole family can enjoy. It was... There's things in the show, or there were things in the show that were not suitable for today's audiences in the mind of Disney, and so political correctness stuff that has been changed. And I honestly don't know the specifics. I just know like there's like Native American representation in it and stuff like that, right?
I have no idea, but you did say the show opened in 1974, so I think that's kind of...
Times have changed for sure. So, so that's coming back. Reservations will be available starting May 26th for showtimes beginning on June 23rd. So hopefully if you're a fan of that, I must say there are a few things. In fact, I'm doing them right now this week. We are both, and you said you're in Walt Disney World. I'm on the East Coast. I am doing two things that when pandemic canceled them, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I may never get to do those again. One is I'm hoping to go see Phantom of the Opera on Broadway because as much of a theater fan as I am, I was never a huge fan of that show and I'd only seen the tour. And I was like, oh my gosh, if pandemic closes Phantom, I will kick myself for not having had that experience. And then Blue Man Group in Boston. I haven't seen it in like over 20 years, but it was another thing. I'm like, it just won't feel like Boston without Blue Man Group. So the fact that they're both back is my goal to go back and experience them. And I'm sure many people feel that way about Hoop-Dee-Doo. There was a lot of rumor that it just wouldn't return because of political reasons and, just 1974. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So is Phantom the longest running Broadway show?
It is the longest running show on Broadway, and I don't dislike the show. What was that? Take that, Cats. There have been quite a few. I think, Lion King's even longer than Cats at this point. So
yeah, I just remember Cats back when I was growing up in New Jersey in the 90s. I remember them marketing it as the longest running show. So.
Yeah, the first longest running, I believe, was like a chorus line, had the record for a long time. Then Cats had it for a long time. And then there was like the Phantom Les Mis time period, and then Les Mis closed. Phantom got it. Lion King's been running forever. So yeah, it's incredible. I mean, if you really think 30 plus years or whatever it's been of Phantom, and even a pandemic didn't get rid of it. So,
and as soon as they close it, there'll be a revival with a new imagination of it.
Probably. I mean, Les Mis did not take very long to get back. It was like 10 years, which, it's a good chunk of time. But when you're like, oh, we ran for 20 plus years, it doesn't feel like that long. So in any case, shall we move on to the next story?
Yes, sir.
Disneyland Paris is celebrating 30 years, which I feel like we are not hearing enough about. Like, it's a pretty huge milestone, and I love Disneyland Paris.
And their song is banging.
Is it? Oh, what's the song called?
Tout le monde qui s'illumine.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that, but what does that translate
It's awesome.
to?
It's like, if you heard it on the radio, you'd be like, this sounds like a little off, but it's definitely more pop-worthy than your normal Disney fare.
All right. Well, in honor of Disneyland Paris's 30th anniversary, and in collaboration with Walt Disney Imagineering, Disneyland Paris is pleased to announce an exceptional panel that will reunite many Disney Imagineers, including several who will gather together on stage for the first time since the 1990s, which was forever ago. Now, several generations of Imagineers will discuss on stage the creation and development of Disneyland Paris in front of an audience of enthusiasts, annual pass holders, and cast members. In order to allow as many people as possible to benefit from this panel, a live broadcast will also take place on the Disneyland Paris YouTube channel. Panel guests include Tony Baxter, former executive producer of Disneyland Paris, Beth Clapperton, the art director, Tim Delaney, former show producer for Discoveryland, Tracy Eck, the art director of Disneyland Park, of course, Disneyland Park in Paris, Bjorn Herwagen, excuse me if I said that wrong, does that sound right? Bjorn Hirvagen, let's say that. Director,
That sounds good.
show design and production. Sylvie Massara, art director for Portfolio Hotels. And Tom Morris, former show producer of Fantasyland. This is cool. I'm glad that they're putting this online because this should be a pretty epic panel that honestly sounds worthy of like a D23 Expo sort of thing.
Yeah, we thought about going for this, and then I was like, no, I don't want to go back so soon. Like, as much as I love going to the park and I have my annual pass, I'm like, a little too much. But no, I'm very excited it's going to be online because, yeah, this sounds more like something they would have done for the 25th. So I'm glad they're doing it for the 30th. And I think it'll be a really cool conversation because, that park it's such an interesting story from where it started and how it's gone since. Like the fact that they get to celebrate 30 years is really surprising given those early days. So I think it'll be really cool for these different generations to kind of reflect on how the impact that they've had on that resort.
Yeah, and I really hope they're just like genuinely honest about it because I feel like Disney, I mean, if you look at the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, they talk about those difficult early days and it's Disney has had a couple parks. I mean, everybody talks about DCA as well. A couple parks that really just did not hit it out of the gate. And
Hong Kong,
yeah, still kind of struggling quite a bit. But these are properties that the company has fully invested in. I think the thing with Disneyland Paris that I find interesting is when you talk about Hong Kong and DCA not really doing well at the beginning, I'm kind of like, I get it. They look cheap, right? Whereas Disneyland Paris, to me, not that I went in the first year, but I went early on, and it was always one of the most beautiful, stunning parks to me. So it wasn't because it wasn't a good park. It was more like they just didn't take the culture into consideration, and the locals kind of just weren't having it. So It's always been a great park. To me, they didn't screw up building a beautiful theme park, at least a beautiful theme park that Americans would love.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think that's turned around in a really big way. Like, I'm always amazed at how many hardcore fans there are every time I go to that resort. And,
like locals?
From like ones that are clearly French, some from the UK, but just in general, like the dedication over there. And a lot of them seem to be cast members that are visiting on their days off, just like here. So I think, maybe the larger culture, but it's also, I think they say it's the most popular tourist attraction in all of Europe, which is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah. Is it the most? I thought maybe the Eiffel Tower beat it or something, but perhaps you're right. I don't know.
It's up there.
It's
and also, I guess it depends on how you classify attraction.
Yeah, I guess they're not really counting the numbers of people going to look at the Eiffel Tower, but if you're just counting the amount of people going up in an elevator versus the amount of people walking through Disneyland Gate.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah. I don't have in my notes here the date for this panel. Did you have a date? I know that
April 12th.
April 12th.
It's on the anniversary.
Okay, on the actual anniversary, April 12th. So that is the day I'll actually be flying back to LA. So I won't get to see it live. I'm hoping this will be recorded and saved online. And it sounded like there was even a place you could sign up to be notified.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I know that you can check out laughingplace.com because we will have a correspondent there.
Excellent. So perfect. There we go. That's happening. Before we move on to the next story, I want to remind folks that if they're looking for magically inspired apparel with deep-cut Disney references, look no further than Whosits and Whatsits. Now, Kyle, are you familiar with those pennant flags that you often saw for like sporting events and or high school pride sort of things? Remember those triangle things?
I saw a couple of them today. Well, they have pennants for sale. It's part of the Disney collection. The Walt Disney.
All right, cool. Well, Whosits and Whatsits has come out with some pretty darn cool pennants for retro Epcot fans. They have Cranium Command, Horizons, and Kitchen Cabaret pennants for sale now. And don't forget the DCTC listeners can save 15% off of their entire order simply by using discount code DCTC at checkout. So go and check out those pennants and everything else they have to offer by clicking the Whosits and Whatsits link in this episode's description. And don't forget to use code DCTC to save yourself 15%. Now, let's talk about the fact that we now know Pixar's Lightyear is going to debut in theaters and IMAX only. and that's happening in June. Yay! So we
Yay!
got confirmation finally.
Yeah, and this was announced during the Oscars. As
Yes.
far as I know, biggest story to come out of the Oscars.
Yeah, right. During the 94th Oscar ceremony, a special introduction from Chris Evans introduced a trailer we'd already seen for the film, but the notable difference was that it said in theaters only, as well as an IMAX announcement. Now, Lightyear is the definitive origin story of Buzz Lightyear, the hero who inspired the toy, and follows the legendary Space Ranger on an intergalactic adventure. Lightyear is set to be released on June 17th, 2022. Since you did mention the Oscars, we should probably say, it is hard to remember that any awards were actually given out during the Oscars, considering, the bad-tempered behavior of Will Smith overshadowing the entire event, but we should mention that Disney did win several Oscars. Best Animated Feature Film went to Encanto. I was personally rooting for Luca, but hey, Encanto wins.
And there was controversy around that announcement, not necessarily the film winning, but the introduction that the presenters gave for the animation category was not well received by the animation community.
What? Okay, I missed this. What happened? You forget everything with the Oscars when you have Will Smith slapping somebody on stage. It was pretty horrible. But
so they had three actresses who have played live action versions of the Disney princesses. So that was kind of the theme. And they were just kind of talking about the way that they mentioned to animation. It's something that parents watch over and over again because their kids want to watch it again. And it just kind of felt a little condescending and made it seem like adults can't enjoy animation and that it's something that parents just tolerate, was the vibe I got. You saw Chris Miller of Lord & Miller tweeting about it along with some other people who took offense to that.
I totally get that. I didn't think that when I was watching it. There was a lot of other stuff going on. I had issues all over with the Oscars. There were a lot of problems with the huge, obvious one as well. But that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That is a very, very, very fair point. I always think of the quote from Don Hahn, and I might butcher this a little bit. He always says, animation is not a genre, it's a technique. And I always think about that, and he's right. Animation can be comedy, it can be drama, it can be whatever genre you want it to be, but animation itself is not a genre. And that was kind of a backhanded slap, wasn't it, the way that they presented it? Really interesting. Yeah. In any case, Ariana DeBose won Best Actress in a Supporting Role for the 20th Century Studios movie West Side Story. Jenny Bevan won Best Costume Design for her work on Cruella. Very well deserved there. Best Actress in a Leading Role went to Jessica Chastain for her performance in Searchlight Pictures' The Eyes of Tammy Faye. That movie also won for Best Makeup and Hairstyling. And Searchlight Pictures' Summer of Soul won for Best Documentary, immediately after Will Smith physically attacked a man on stage because he didn't like the words that came out of his mouth. So that was the Oscars.
Congratulations to Questlove.
Yeah, seriously, nobody remembers it, but... God... That was a very
Have you seen the Summer of Soul?
I haven't. It's been on my list for a very long time. I remember when Summer of Soul was in theaters, and I was like, I got to go see this. I got A-list. I was like, I'm going to go see this movie, and never got around to it. Now I believe it's on Hulu, right?
Yeah, I think they came out around the same time. But yeah, definitely fun, especially if you enjoy 60s music as much as I do.
Okay, I don't know if I necessarily do, but the subject matter seemed very interesting to me, and I just like documentaries in general. Speaking of documentaries, nice segue, Kyle Burbank. Jim Henson biography feature in the works from director Ron Howard. Now, Disney Original Documentary has announced a new feature project telling the story of beloved creator of the Muppets, Jim Henson, directed by Ron Howard, and it's set to feature unprecedented access to Henson's personal archives from his first performances through the success of Sesame Street, The Muppets, and beyond. Now, this upcoming documentary will be the definitive portrait of Henson, produced with the full participation and cooperation of the Henson family, and will present a fascinating and intimate look at Jim's illustrious career, creating treasured characters and revolutionizing television and film. With never-before-seen personal archives, the film will give audiences an exciting first-person view into the life of one of the world's most inspiring and iconoclastic creators through exclusive home movies, photographs, sketches, and Henson's personal diaries. This is what director Ron Howard had to say. He says, quote, "Jim Henson transcends generations through his iconic characters, and it's one of the many reasons why I've been a lifelong fan. I can't wait to share a side of him and his career that people have never seen before. Henson's limitless imagination and restless creativity is like few others, and has influenced so much of our world as we know it. I'm humbled to be able to share a deeper look into his life and story." This is super exciting. I don't know about you, but I'm thrilled.
Yeah, no, this sounds very interesting. It's going to be so cool to have access to all of that. Like, obviously, it's not like we don't know anything about the life of Jim Henson, but I think having this level of access and, like they're saying, having a definitive film about it and such high profile talent doing the work on it, I think is awesome.
Yeah, and so Ron Howard's company, Imagine Entertainment, they have a division called Imagine Documentary. And actually, on my flight back east, I just watched their documentary called Julia, about Julia Child, which was really good. I'd been keeping my eye on it for a while. I didn't realize it was his company until I was watching it on the plane. And it was really good. I didn't know much about Julia Child, so there was a lot for me to discover and have a lot of like aha moments. Jim Henson, on the other hand, I know a lot about, but I'm still hoping and expecting for a lot of things that will surprise me. The one thing that surprised me a little bit about this announcement, and nothing against Ron Howard here, but like I've never heard him speak of Jim Henson, or I've never connected him with anything Jim Henson. So it was like if it was about like George Lucas, I'd be like, okay, like he's worked with him with Willow and all this stuff. I don't get the Ron Howard connection, but that doesn't mean he's not a fan. It just doesn't feel. It's not like, oh, well, of course Ron Howard's doing it,
Yeah, and I mean, it also could have more to do with if the Henson estate is giving license to someone, they might want someone like a Ron Howard or a Steven Spielberg or someone of that caliber to be the one to do it. So just because they're not outwardly a fan doesn't mean that the family isn't a fan of them and their work, and they still have an affinity for Jim.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. We don't have any dates or anything, so it's probably going to be a while. And I don't know where it'll go. Probably Disney Plus. I don't know. Maybe it'll hit theater. It'll probably hit theaters. This is something they'll want to win an Oscar.
Yeah, exactly. It'll have at least an Oscar qualifying run, which I think is like a couple weekends in LA. Yeah.
So that'll be super cool. Excited about that. And that's the news for the week. Anything else you want to add, Kyle?
Not really. Well, I'm excited to talk to you more about Star Cruiser, but we'll save that for another day.
Yes, that'll be in a few weeks. We'll have that on the show. And Kyle will tell you all about his Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser experience, his adventures aboard the Halcyon, everything that ensued, and I'm looking very forward to it. And other than that, see you next time, Kyle.
All right, see you later.
To read more about any and all of the stories you've heard here, simply visit the show notes link in this episode's description. You've heard the news, and now I want to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think about close contact character interactions returning to the parks? Is it time, or is it premature? Share your thoughts on that or any other topics mentioned in today's episode. Call 818-860-2569, and you may just hear yourself on a future episode of Disney Coast to Coast. Don't miss any future episodes by subscribing and following Disney with a Z Coast to Coast on your favorite podcast app. This episode has been executive produced by Robert Scontrino. Gain rewards like Robert, including access to never-before-heard episodes and live stream Q&As by visiting the Patreon link in this episode's description. And this month, April of 2022, I'll be matching 100% of your first month subscription to the charity Autism Speaks in honor of National Autism Awareness Month. Autism Speaks is dedicated to promoting solutions across the spectrum and throughout the lifespan for the needs of individuals with autism and their families through advocacy and support, increasing understanding and acceptance of autism spectrum disorder, and advancing research into causes and better interventions for autism spectrum disorder and related conditions. If you'd like to learn more about Autism Speaks, I'll include a link in the show notes in this episode's description. Basically, anything you need can be found in this episode's description, from additional information and links discussed in the episode found in the show notes, to the DCTC hotline where you can leave a voicemail and be heard on a future episode, access to the show's official website, some free gifts from me to you, and so much more. So be sure to check out this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the DePodcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at DePodcastNetwork.com. That's DEPodcastNetwork.com.